on this computer. Okay. So if there's any issue or if there's any glitch, feel free to interrupt. But I'm very excited to present to you guys tonight reading food labels. This is something that many of you and many of my clients in the past have come to me to say, hey, is this good? Can I eat this, Mike, or what have you? So I really wanted to spend some time and go through what we can do to just educate ourselves of what things are in the grocery store. So just real quick, a little bit about me. Many of you know who I am, Mike Thomas. I'm a health coach. I've been coaching for now 3 years. I've had excess of 50-something plus clients in the last 3 years. I have a website, which is on your screen. I am board certified with the American College of Lifestyle Medicine. I'm also a registered pharmacist and very blessed to have recently gone through training with the Mayo Clinic program, Mayo Clinic Health and Wellness Trained. And I hope to be in May, take the board certification and become national board certified as a health and wellness coach. So that's a little bit about me. I also wanted to put on this for anybody that's on the call or anybody that's watching this video, that we do have a Facebook group that I think we have almost 300 people on this group now, where there's a lot of folks that are sharing their personal stories, their recipes, other people's videos that are inspiring, et cetera. The whole point of this Facebook group is really to help and support each other. And I'm just so pleased about what's happening there. And to come soon, I'm going to be posting fast meals, because I've gotten a lot of requests from folks that I talk to about plant-based eating of, hey, Mike, can you give me some? I just want to throw some stuff together, 30 minutes or less. So I'm working on putting together 10 to 15 meals that are 30 minutes or less. They're going to be fast, very convenient, probably inexpensive, and of course, delicious. It's got to taste good. So that's coming soon on Facebook. So watch out for that. So just a little disclaimer. What I did, and you can see this on the next slide, is I ordered this gentleman's, his name is Jeff Novick, and he's a registered dietitian, and I'll talk about him in just a second, but I've ordered his DVD series on Amazon. And I don't know if he just distributes to Amazon now or he actually distributes himself, but these videos were made probably about 10 or 15 years ago, but obviously the information is pretty powerful, and the DVDs are amazing. There's so much great information on these DVDs. 90% of what I'm talking about today came on that third DVD called Shopping School, where he literally is in a grocery store and he's breaking down the label reading on different products. And he literally goes to all these areas of the grocery store. So it's pretty cool. It took a long time for me to watch the video and take notes, and watch the video and take notes, and then make the PowerPoint. But this is the gentleman. He is a hoot. He has got such a great personality. He's really funny, very much into what's going on with whole food, plant-based. Registered dietitian, obviously works at the Pretty Good Longevity Center in Florida. Just a great guy. And I don't know if he's written any books or anything, but he's really very strong in what he does to communicate in a simple manner. He's got great, amazing recipes, which I've stolen and used as well. So my disclaimer is, I'm not sharing this information with you because I am the know all and be all with reading labels, because I'm not a registered dietitian. I'm not an expert, but obviously I can watch his stuff and tell you what Jeff's expertise brings, as well as what his parameters are. And you're going to hear all his guidelines in just a moment. He does kick out his video really talking about the Garden of Eden, which is the produce aisle, and how these don't have labels. And ironically, they don't need them, because we know when we eat the vegetables and the fruits in the produce aisles, that's where we're going to probably be the most healthy as possible. So reading labels, a lot of my clients, like I said, as well as people I just meet and they hear what I do, they really want to know, well, I really kind of want to know, is this good for me, or is it not good for me? Should I eat this or should I not? And please know that it's important to note that it's not all about what's on the label itself, okay? You're going to hear and see a lot of things that don't necessarily go by his guidelines today. However, it's probably the most healthy product in that aisle. And so this isn't about picking the perfect food. It's really about picking the best food in that aisle itself. So Jeff has his number one rule, which I think is probably pretty straightforward. These are pretty egregious examples below, but never read or believe the front of the package. There's so much stuff that they are putting on the front of the package. Apparently, Cocoa Krispies helps you to build immunity. Apparently, it says right there. And if you have Pop-Tarts, it's cholesterol free, and it's going to be a good source of 6 vitamins and minerals, right? Notwithstanding, of course, the sugar and everything else that's in there. And then, of course, we've got Spam Light. So there's less fat in Spam Light, of course, which is going to be great. So never believe the front of the packages. So in this screen, you can see there's just a lot of different products. And again, this is not about having the perfect product. This is deciding what you feel makes sense for you based on your taste buds and based on the products you see in that aisle, whether it's pastas, peanut butters, frozen dinners, breads, pizza breads, veggie burgers, energy bars. We're going to be able to touch base about a lot of these things today in our discussion. So I'm looking forward to that. Before we do, and just one caveat, some of this will probably be a little bit overwhelming. It was overwhelming for me, and I took a lot of time to put it into my brain and then put it on the screen that you see before you. That was made by design to try to encapsulate the basics of what's going on with reading labels, and also understanding having you be in a place where you can understand and make good decisions for yourself, healthy decisions. Having said that, this is being recorded, and you're certainly welcome to reach out to me anytime to discuss it, as well as to watch the video, which will be posted online. So macronutrients versus micronutrients. This discussion today is really about macronutrients, which there's 3. It's protein, there's fat, and there's carbohydrates. The micronutrients are the vitamins and minerals that are on those labels. We don't really discuss that in today's conversation. Of the macronutrients, we then break down and talk about, okay, carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. How do we see what I'm fueling my body with, whether that's a drink or something that I'm eating? What does it look like as far as calories goes? And this is just the basics of where you get your calories, right? So when you look at the label, it'll even tell you at the bottom. So every gram of fat is 9 calories. Every gram of carbohydrate is 4 calories. And every gram of protein is 4 calories. So we're going to be doing some calculating. I've done a lot of the calculating for you, but that's going to help and break down some of this, some of the identifications of how we can identify, is this going to be really healthy for me? So we're going to go through some practice sessions. So this is, most of these pictures, not all of them, but most of these pictures are actually from my kitchen, right? So there's a little bit of disclaimer here, and just, you can see that just because it's in my kitchen doesn't necessarily mean I'm eating it. And you're going to see that, especially towards the end of it, but I'm just having a little bit of fun with this. So this is Thai kitchen noodles. I use this in a recipe that is the soy curl chicken, which is so good. And of course, we use the soy curls instead, noodle soup. And these are the noodles that we use in this. So in the example that we talked about before, the previous slide, when we look at the breakdown of calories, again, every gram of fat is 9 calories, which is on your screen. So you can easily calculate that if it's 9 calories and the total fat in here, and I don't know if you can see this or not, is 0.5 grams. So there's only 0.5 grams. So over here it says 0.5 grams times 9 equals 4.5 grams of fat in one serving, right? In this whole package, there's 7 servings per container, okay? Going to the carbohydrates, there's 45 grams of carbohydrates, and we know that the carbs are 4 grams of 4 calories per gram. So 45 times 4 is 180. Okay, so there's 180 grams of carbohydrates in there, or calories coming in per serving. And the last one is the protein. There's 4 grams of protein at the bottom here in one serving. 4 times 4 is 16. Okay, so having said that, and we're going to go through a number of samples here so you kind of get the flow of this, but if you take the total amount of calories in that serving of fat, which is 4.5, and you divide it by the number of calories per serving, it gives you the percent of fat that you're getting in this meal, or this serving. So in that serving, there's 4.5 divided by 200 is 2.25% fat, or about 2% fat. In the total carbs, it's 180 divided by 200. There's your total calories, 90% carbohydrates. And your protein here is 8 divided by 200. I'm sorry, is 16 divided by 200 is 8%. And if you add those up, you can see 8 plus 90 plus 2 is 100. So the calories from this, you can see right off the bat how many calories you're going to get from carbs, from fat, and from protein. Okay. The reason I wanted to go through that exercise with you, and we'll go through a number of them, is not to say, okay, well, it has to be this much fat or it has to be this much carb. That's not what I'm saying. I just want you to be able to identify, this is what's I'm getting in fat in this particular item. Okay. So here's actually a whole food. This is whole brown rice. Great value at Walmart. You can see it's 1.5 grams of fat. There's 0 saturated fat, which is the more unhealthy fat. 1.5 times 9 is 13.5. 13.5 divided by 170. So the brown rice is 8% fat. Same thing here. Your carbohydrates is 34 grams, 34 times 4, because there's 4 calories per gram, gives you 136, right? 136 divided by 170 is 80% carbs. And the protein in the bottom here, there's protein in brown rice, 3 grams, 3 times 4 is 12, 12 divided by the total calories, 170 is 7%. So these aren't exactly 100, but they're pretty close, and it gives you a rough idea when you're having this particular product. This is how much you're getting in carbs, this is how much you're getting in fat, and this is how much you're getting in protein. So I wanted to compare, having said that, I want to compare whole milk versus 2% milk. Okay, and this is just for example, just to educate ourselves. So on the left-hand side, you can see there's 9 grams of fat in 1 cup of milk. And it's 5 grams of saturated fat, but we're just talking about the total fat. So again, 9 times 9 is 81. 81 divided by 160 is basically 50% fat. So there's 50% fat in whole milk, typically, right? So the bottom here, you've got 12 grams of carbohydrates. 12 times 4 is 48. So it's about 30% carbs, and it's 20% protein. On the right-hand side, it's 2% milk. And I always thought, well, 2% means it's 2% fat. No, it doesn't. If you can see, there's 5 grams of fat. 5 times 9 is 45. 45 divided by 130 is 35% fat. So just because you have 2% milk doesn't mean there's no fat there. It's 35% fat. Okay. Obviously, it's 15% less fat than the whole milk, so it is less. It's about 37% carbs, and it's 25% protein with this specific example. Okay. So there's a method to the madness here. I want to go through a few examples so you guys are getting your feet wet before I get into the other part of this presentation. So here, this is from my pantry or refrigerator. This is Parmesan cheese, right? So it's 20 calories per 2 teaspoons. And I don't know who uses just 2 teaspoons of Parmesan cheese, but it's 1.5 grams. 1.5 times 9 is 13.5. 13.5 divided by 20. It's 70% fat, 68% fat. There's no carbs, and it's about 40% protein, right? Just by looking at that. So you can see cheese has got a lot of fat. So this is the interactive part. I just wanted you guys to reach out and just say, you know, when you talk about foods, when you talk about processed foods, what are the things that are in the foods that causes most of our health problems? What do you think?
Fat.
Fat is one.
Like saturated fat specifically?
Saturated fat specifically, but fat is one of the ones that we're going to talk about. What else besides fat?
Sugar.
Sugar is another one, and there's one more.
Sodium, salt.
Bingo. So fat, salt, and sugar. And we're going to break down, just like Jeff does on his video, and we're going to talk about those specifically in the guidelines that he has, okay? And Jeff's guidelines are the following. Calories from fat. This is processed foods, this is packaged foods. What he recommends is if you have something that's a packaged food, His goal is to be 20% less in fat from calories. Remember, we just calculated how to figure that out, right? With sodium, if you look at the amount of milligrams of sodium and you look at the calories, they should be about a 1-to-1 ratio, okay? And then calories from sugar. And sugar is a subcategory of the carbohydrates, and we'll calculate that in a minute, but it's still 4 calories per gram of sugar. He would like that, the added sugars to be 5% or less. And the last thing he talks about on the DVD is really checking the ingredients. So we're going to go through some specific examples when it looks like things look good in the ratios, but then you can tell the difference when you look at the ingredients, okay? So Jeff's guidelines with regards to fat, as I mentioned before, is calories and fat should be 20% or less. And of course, the disease state that fat affects the most is obesity. So just some real quick statistics. Obesity is defined as having a BMI of 30 or greater. A woman that's 5'4" that weighs 175 pounds or greater is classified as obese. A man that's 5'9" that weighs 203 pounds or greater is classified as obese as well. Almost 43% of Americans in 2000, I think the statistic was 2019, are obese. 10% of Americans in 1950, right? So just 70 years ago. So it's almost gone gone over 4-fold in percentage in the last 70 years. Unfortunately, the fastest growing obesity rates are in children and adolescents. All-cause death and mortality. So these are some of the consequences of obesity. Pretty straightforward, obviously, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, type 2 diabetes, heart disease, stroke, and unfortunately, osteoarthritis, just the breakdown of what's going on with osteoarthritis with the cartilage and the bones within the joints. So again, we've already done this, but I just want to review it one more time as it relates to converting grams to fat and calories. This particular package has 8 grams of fat. 8 times 9 is 72. 72 divided by 230, you can see on your screen there. This is 31.3% fat, right? And in his guidelines, he would say this doesn't meet the guidelines, okay? And he does that quite a bit on the video itself, okay? All right, here's another one. This one is 160 calories. It's 8 grams of fat. We know that 8 times 9 is 72. 72 divided by 160. This particular item is 45% fat, which is more than double of his guidelines. Okay. Here's some peanut butter. Okay. And this is just an image that I took off of Amazon, just a regular thing of peanut butter here. We already know that peanut butter in general, peanuts have natural fat in them. So we would expect this to be greater than 20% fat. But having said that, 15 grams of peanut butter that are in, for this particular one, 2 tablespoons of peanut butter. 15 times 9 is 135. 135 divided by 90 is 71% fat. Now, this is, again, this isn't one where you're going to say, well, I'm not going to have this because it's way over 20%. But you can see and compare as we talk about what's really the most healthy peanut butter out there. This probably is not, right? So this is PB2, and I've got a number of things that I want to talk with you guys about this. And this is something that I sometimes recommend to clients that would like to go to something that's less fat. And it does say on the front of the label, 90% less fat. But what's the number one rule? Never, don't read it or believe it unless you verify it from the back. So we're going to do that in just a moment. But this is 2 tablespoons. 2 tablespoons of this PB2 is 60 calories, and 2 grams of 2.5 grams of fat times 9 is 22.5. 22.5 divided by 60 is 37.
In progress.
Divided by 60 is 37. All right. Getting some background there. Here we go. I was able to mute you, Bev. So we got 2.5 grams times 9 equals 22.5. 2.5 grams times 9 equals 22.5. We got some echo going on. I don't know where it's coming from.
Mike, I think it's me. I've got two things going and I'm trying to cut it off. But it won't let me.
Just turn off your phone.
Ah, thank you.
Got it? Okay, so on this specific one, 22.5 divided by 60. So this PB2 is 37.5, right, percent fat. So significantly better as a fat percentage or less fat than objectively than the other one. Okay. So my question for you is the front label accurate? So it says it's powdered peanut butter, and certainly there is powdered peanut butter in there, but it also has sugar and salt in it as well, right? So I don't know that's a little bit misleading, as you can see that on there. So that's one other thing. The other thing is 90% less fat true? And the answer is sort of. First of all, we don't know what they're comparing that to. It just says the basic peanut butter on your shelf. And if you do the math with what this one is, which is 2.5 grams of fat versus the other one, it is definitely close. It's like 78% less fat. So that's sort of true as well. But I wanted to bring another item that I found on Amazon, and I've ordered not this specific one, but something just like this, which is more in line with being a whole food. So this is actually just peanuts that are ground up to a powder form. If you can see the ingredients, there's the only thing that says on there, ingredients in the very middle there, it says powdered peanut butter powder, just contains peanuts. There's no additional sugars in there. There's no additional salt in there. And I calculated the macros on the bottom here, but I just want you to see in the bottom left, it's 27% fat. So even this as a peanut butter is greater than 20%, but probably significantly less fat, and obviously potentially a little bit more healthy. Okay. So now chips. So this is for 6 chips. It's 150 calories, right? We know that there's 7 grams of fat in there. 7 times 9, it says on your screen, is 63 calories of fat in one serving. And I would just like to bring to your attention that I don't know how many people just have 6 chips and they say, that was so good. Let's move on to my water, I guess, or my bread, or my oranges. Most people have a lot more than 6 chips, I guess is what I'm saying. So as a percentage of fat, 63 divided by the calories, 150, this is 42% fat, because there's a lot of oil on there that you can see as well. So this is what I do, right? I take those corn tortillas, which is on your screen, the Mission corn tortillas. I chop them in fourths. So 2 tortillas here, 68 grams, it's 140 calories, right? It's only 1.5 grams of fat. So this, the other one was 42% fat. This is actually 9.6% calories come from fat, right? So potentially a heck of a lot more healthy. And this is the corn tortilla versus the corn chips that's laden with oil and cooked with salt, etc. I have on there on your screen a QR code like I had before for my Facebook group. And that's just a real quick 2-minute video on how to make those that I found online. I use that and send it to a lot of my clients in the past as well. If that's useful for you, you can just cue that up with your camera. So a lot of people say, well, I have corn tortillas because corn tortillas are less fattening than flour tortillas. And quite frankly, here it is right on your screen. 2 tortillas, which is 68 grams, the right-hand side there, is 9.6% fat. We did the calculation on the previous slide. And a flour tortilla with 1 tortilla, which is 42 grams, is almost 30% fat from that standpoint, okay? It just kind of shows it to there. So sodium was the second thing that we talked about. And his guidelines, like I said before, is 1-to-1 ratio of calories to sodium. This one, we don't really have to do any calculations. It's pretty straightforward. It's really easy to see, but when you talk about health conditions, what health condition to you guys makes sense that it's a challenge when you load up on sodium?
High blood pressure.
Correct. Hypertension, high blood pressure. So normal high blood pressure is less than 120 over less than 80. Unfortunately, 47% of adult Americans have high blood pressure, and only 19% of these that have it take one or more medications to help them. So a lot of people have it and don't even know it, which is very scary, of course. High blood pressure is known as the silent killer because it often shows no symptoms. Common cause of hypertension is a diet high in salt, fat, and or cholesterol. We all know the risks: heart disease with high blood pressure, heart attack, strokes, kidney failure, vascular dementia, aortic aneurysms. So the guidelines, the RDA, recommended daily allowance of sodium, is on the high end is 2,300 milligrams per day. And the average American has and consumes 3,400 milligrams a day. That's the average American. So the average American consumes 50% more salt than's recommended on a daily basis. So we're going to go through these. These are going to be really easy to identify, no calculation, like I said, but this is just a can of black beans. And I think it's actually low sodium black beans. And I'll tell you why I say that in just a minute. But you can see the calories are 100 and the sodium is 140. So he wants it to be a 1-to-1 ratio. He would like your sodium to be 100 or less. So this wouldn't necessarily meet the guidelines that Jeff Novak has claimed to be 1-to-1 ratio of calories to sodium. So this is a can of black beans with no salt added. This has 80 calories per half of a cup or half of a can. No, actually there's 6 servings per container here, so half of a cup. And in that, there's only 15 milligrams of sodium. So we can see on this one definitely would qualify as far as the sodium goes. And this would be something that would be helpful. I'm just going to mention this now because I don't want to forget to say this. And this was expressed a couple of times on the DVD. And that is, when you're preparing your food, and I know a lot of people on this call prepare their food, and when it says to add this much salt in it, if you just don't put the salt in there, but you have the salt on the table, you can add a little bit on the table and it's going to be significantly less, and it's going to impact your taste buds so much more than adding it within the cooking itself. Because when you cook it in, it's harder to taste and you get a lot more sodium in that process. So a tip that he gives is just add a smidgen when you're actually eating it if you feel like it needs salt versus adding it while you cook it. So here's some TV dinners that I found on Amazon, and I've got some ratios for you. So this per package on the left-hand side of TV dinner has 1,730 milligrams of sodium for 1,000 calories. So that does not qualify, obviously, for his guidelines. The one on the right-hand side is lower in calories. It's 420 calories, which is good, but unfortunately, it has 3 times. It's a 3-to-1 ratio of sodium. So you're getting 1,290 milligrams of sodium per calorie ratio of 420. So that one obviously doesn't meet the criteria for him as well. So a lot of people ask me about veggie burgers, and I'm going to go back and forth with this slide and this slide, right? And we're going to talk about fat, we're going to talk about sodium, and we're going to talk about protein, right? So this is the first one. It has 130 calories, you can see there, and the next one's got 100 calories per patty. So pretty close. Now the ratio, the sodium on this one is 320. So this is 3 times the amount of sodium, or roughly, to the ratio of calories. Everybody can see that. The next one has 320 calories per 100 calories of sodium, or 100 calories per patty, right? So they both don't really qualify as far as sodium goes, right? Let's talk about protein. So the first one has got 14 grams of protein in the package, and the next one's got 16 grams, so pretty comparable. So they're comparable in calories, and I'm visualizing you at the freezer section of your grocery store looking at these 2 products. So just kind of think about it here. Let's look at the calories, right? Let's look at the proteins. Let's look at the sodium. So all those are pretty equal, right? And if the price is good on both of them and the taste is good on both of them, where are you going to decide whether or not you're going to buy one or the other? And that is with fat, right? So this has got 5 grams of fat and the next one has 1 gram of fat, right? So that there's an advantage with the veggie burgers on this screen of the 1 gram of fat. And the other area, which we haven't talked about this in the presentation yet, but the other area on this is the actual ingredients. If you look at these ingredients on this one, where it's got more fat, water, soy protein concentrate, canola oil, wheat gluten, onion, soy protein, etc. This one has got some more whole foods in it. It has less items in it. And in fact, it doesn't get to the oil towards near the bottom of it, right? So this would be one that I would choose over this one, just because if the price is comparable and I like the taste of both of them, I'm probably going to choose this veggie burger. Okay. And that's kind of what this whole presentation is about, is really just getting there and looking at the 2 different products. Now, having said that, I don't have a comparison for this one, but this is actually from my freezer. We don't eat regular hot dogs, at least I don't. And so this one, I just want to bring it up. So let's look at the fat. 7 grams of fat, 7 times 9 is 63, 63 divided by 90. What we're talking about here, what, 70% fat, right? Look at your sodium. 470 milligrams of sodium in a ratio compared to your 90. So this is one I'm probably going to be looking at another hot dog, a vegan hot dog or a plant-based hot dog, and then your ingredients. Again, water and vegetable oil are your first 2 ingredients on this one. Now his ratio, his guidelines and his ratio for condiments is 4-to-1 ratio, because he realizes that we don't put 2 cups of barbecue sauce on our fries, or maybe we do, I don't know. You just have to take that into consideration. So if you look at a 4-to-1 ratio, on your left-hand side is some barbecue sauce, and the calories are 40 per serving, you can see that, and then your sodium is 125. So this one meets the qualifications or the guidelines for Jeff Novick. The next one, the calories are 10 calories. Your sodium is 75. So it's almost 8 times in this particular ketchup. It's almost 8 times. So this one would not qualify. And all the way to the right, your calories are 20 and your sodium is 50. So this one would qualify as a condiment. This is actually from my refrigerator. This is I use this a lot when I make a lot of my meals. I use this particular Sweet Baby Ray's. And you look at your sodium on this one in your bottom right-hand corner, you have 70 calories, and your sodium on this one is 290. 70 times 4 is 280. So it does meet the criteria, although I do usually use quite a bit. So I got to be careful with that. I usually use more than 2 tablespoons. So something to consider for sure. And the last one is sugar. And his guidelines of sugar, and I only have a few examples for you guys on this one because it's pretty straightforward, is to have 5% less of sugar of those added sugars that are in there. And so when we think of disease states, again, tying together food and disease, what disease state comes to mind when it regards to sugar?
Diabetes.
That's exactly right. So a couple of statistics with diabetes in 2018, almost 9% of American population carried the diagnosis of diabetes, when only 60 years earlier, less than 1% of the population had to live with this difficult disease. This is not a genetic thing. This is about the food. This is about our environment. What can we do to take control? The total yearly economic cost of just this is $300 billion, and clearly this is not sustainable. A few other statistics, again, about 1 in 10 Americans have diabetes, 1 in 3 have prediabetes, and there's a lot of challenges and risks with prediabetes as well. It's estimated that people born in the year 2050 will eventually 1 out of 3 of those people, so 33% of Americans at that point in time, will grow up and have diabetes. 1/3 of all people who have diabetes do not even know it. And the most common long-term diabetes-related health problems are damage to the large blood vessels of the heart, the brain, and the lungs. Again, we know all about a lot of these risks: heart disease, nerve damage, kidney damage. It's very, very sad. It's very, very scary. Foot damage, there's over 70,000 amputations done every year because of diabetes in America. Alzheimer's disease and stroke. And like I said, I don't have a whole lot of examples on this one, but I think it's pretty straightforward. On this one, you can see this is actually from my pantry. Honey Bunches of Oats, you can see their total sugars here is 9 grams. And as I mentioned before, it's the same as carbohydrates. It's 4 calories per gram in sugar. 9 times 4 is 36. 36 divided by 160, the total calories is 22.5. And his guidelines are, he would like the sugars to be 5% or less, right? Especially if they're a product like this where you're actually adding the sugar. So this one doesn't qualify for Jeff, his guidelines. Here's another one, sugar guidelines, calories from sugar 5% or less. So this is also in my pantry. And this is when I'm having cereal and not oatmeal, which usually I'm having oatmeal, but when I'm having cereal, this is typically what I'm having. It is 1.5 calories, 1.5 grams of fat. And you can see this, the sugar that's added onto this one, there is 0 total sugars here. Okay, so this one kind of hits a lot of things. It gives you lower calories, it gives you lower fats, it gives you strong whole foods. You can see the whole grain wheat on the right-hand side, which is, we're going to talk about the ingredients in just a minute, but this is just one product. It's whole grain wheat, right? So very, very healthy, no fat, and you can, no sugar, I'm sorry, no sugar. And then you can compare that to the one that we had before that. And the last section is really looking at the ingredients, as I mentioned. Less is better. We don't want to have 7,500 ingredients in there with all the preservatives, et cetera. We're looking for the word whole, and then you want to rank in order of the percentage. So the things in the very beginning, when they say the ingredients, have the higher percentage than the things in the very end, and it goes in a decreasing format. So here's one pretty straightforward. Again, from my pantry, I have this most mornings for breakfast, or sometimes I will have an intermittent fasting and I won't have breakfast and I'll have this for lunch instead. But you can say this, just one product here, whole grain, and you're looking for the word whole, rolled oats. Very, very healthy. No sodium on the right-hand side. You can see there's 0 milligrams of sodium. Your total fat percentage is low, and it's got 5 grams of protein in as well. Okay, so here's something I actually bought a couple of weeks ago because I was excited because I'm really trying to get more healthy pastas. And you'll see why in just a moment. So I was pretty excited about this, and I'm doing this presentation. I'm like, well, I'm going to take a picture of this. And sure enough, it's not whole, it's not a whole grain. So I was a little disappointed, just kind of call myself out and say, I probably should do better in reading the ingredients themselves. So this one is probably okay, but ultimately you really want to have that whole product, especially if you've got like a pasta or a rice. This is something that we have had in my family for 30 years. We have this Barilla penne pasta. It is not whole. It is, you obviously, from Jeff's standpoint, it wouldn't meet the criteria. It's pretty much just floured up, right? And lots of water. So when you look at that, you want to compare it to this. This is the Barilla whole grain spaghetti. It has one ingredient, which is basically whole grain durum wheat flour. That's it. That's all it has. So it's got like twice as much fiber in it as well. So it's significantly healthier as it relates to the other one that we pretty much have all the time. All right. So we're just going to go through a few exercises here. I want to just call out some stuff. These are images again from my pantry. This is actually reduced sodium kidney beans, right? When you look at this one, you can see that the ratio is pretty close with regards to sodium. It's got 120 calories and your sodium is 135. So not too bad, but it's kind of ironic that it says it's reduced sodium and it barely qualifies. It actually doesn't qualify, but we'll give it the nod and say. Also, if you look at the ingredients, I know that this is just kidney beans, but sure enough, it's kidney beans, it's water, it's sugar, it's dextrose, it's salt, it's calcium chloride. So again, looking at the ingredients to make those decisions. So here's another one. This is no salt added light red kidney bean. So this is another kidney bean. This one's 120 calories and there's for a half of a cup. Look at the sodium on this one, 10 milligrams of sodium. So this would obviously be the one that you would want to choose. However, if you look at the ingredients, kidney beans, water, sugar, and calcium chloride, right? So this is just pinto beans, literally the dry pinto beans. When I make Uncle Joe's Pinto Bean Delight, this is what I use. 100 calories per serving, no sodium in this. Now, granted, the recipe has sodium, but you could literally put the sodium in the finished product instead of putting it in the recipe when you cook it, right? This is one I actually took like a couple of hours ago. You know, I'm always just adding slides at the very end. And I was going to describe this, but I thought I would just show it to you guys. This is both in my pantry. This is sitting on my counter. Black beans, just regular black beans, which are very healthy. And then black beans, no salt added on the left hand, on the right hand side. On the right hand side picture, you can see those two comparisons of the nutritional facts. Again, same number of calories, 120 calories per the half of a cup. Total fat, same 0.5. But if you look on the right hand side, that's got 10 milligrams of sodium, because there's naturally sodium in black beans, in the 120 calories. On the left hand side, you literally have almost 40 times the amount of sodium in those black beans. And I've presented in the past and I said, you know, sometimes you can get 20 times the amount of sodium. It's actually closer to 40 times the amount of sodium in something that has got sodium added to it versus just the natural flavors of the black beans themselves. So here's some more examples comparing two plant-based milks. These are actually in my refrigerator right now. 80. So if you look at them, 1 cup of the plant-based milk, right? And you're deciding which one am I going to go with here? And there's no right or wrong answer. It's just a personal decision. The one on the left has 80 calories per cup, which is fairly low. The one on the right, which is the one I usually drink, has 25. That's 25 calories per cup. The one on the left has got 4 grams of fat in it, right? And the one on the right has got 2 grams of fat in it. But as a percentage, it's actually higher as a percentage of fat because it only has 25 calories. On the one on the left, you've got 75 milligrams of sodium. On the one on the right, it's got 160 milligrams of sodium. So I'm thinking I'm probably going to switch to the one on the left for that one reason alone. The sodium is so much higher, and the ratio on the sodium on the one on the left is significantly more healthy. I just thought I would throw this in there for fun. So this is also in my refrigerator usually. There is no fat in this. This is spinach. It's just pure spinach. You can see in the very bottom, it says baby spinach. Could I get you guys to mute your phones, please? And it's 2 cups is the serving itself. And there's 65 milligrams of sodium in there. And it's not excess sodium. It's just because that's naturally what comes on for the process of spinach and how it's made, you know, how it grows. So here's one that I have as a product. This is Veganase, and I use this in some of my recipes. And I'm thinking of the Veganase, you know, is this, you know, how is it got a lot of fat in it? Does it have a lot of sodium in it? So if you look at your sodium, the ratio is 70 milligrams and it's 80 calories. So that actually does really well. Protein is fine, but look at your fat. 9 times 9 is 81. 81 divided by 80. This pretty much all the calories are coming from 100% fat here, right? So we have to just consider that as we're having this. And that is for 1 tablespoon of Veganase. And I can tell you that when I use Veganase, I use a heck of a lot more than 1 tablespoon. So this is a product, again, just giving you lots of examples here that I use when I make pizzas in my house and put lots of fresh veggies on them. I like the way it tastes. It's sweet. It's pretty good. So I thought, well, let me just take a picture and see what it looks like. So this is calories, 30 calories in 1/4 of a cup. Okay. Now I can tell you that when I make the pizzas, I use half a bottle. So a half a bottle is 1/4 of a cup is like 1/8 of a bottle. So I use 4 times, 4 servings basically, or 4 times 1 serving size when I make this. So those ratios all need to be, those numbers all need to be multiplied by 4. But look at your sodium, right? So for every 30 calories, there's 340 milligrams of sodium. So it literally has 10 times more sodium in the ratio. And then if you talk about the way Mike makes his pizzas, it's got 400 times more because I'm using 4 times as much. On the right-hand side, you can see the ingredients: Roma tomato puree, not too bad. Got some sugar in it, some salt in it, etc. And those are things that maybe you're going to want to compare if you're looking at other pizza sauces. This is something we use quite a bit. I wanted to bring it to your attention because the calories per serving is 10. The sodium is 230 milligrams. So this has a ton of sodium. And there's tons of great salsas that are out there that have no sodium added that give you great flavor. This is a product, Tostito no fat refried beans, that I've used quite a bit in a number of different recipes. Again, it has 5 times the amount of sodium in it, 540 milligrams in the ratio. There is no fat in this, which is encouraging, of course, but it does have a boatload of sodium. I want to bring this to your attention as well. So you guys probably know this, but I still want to bring it to your attention. So this is the ramen noodles, and 2 serving size per container. I don't know who has a half a thing of ramen noodles, but let's just say that I have the whole thing of ramen noodles, right? If I have the whole thing of ramen noodles, you're going to look at the numbers on the right-hand side. I'm having 370 calories, but I'm also having almost 1,800 milligrams of sodium. And I think we're all pretty well aware that ramen noodles has got a lot of salt in it, but are there other options that we can have ramen noodles and cook this stuff where we're not having as much sodium? And there are definitely some tricks of the trade that you can use. It also has some pretty powerful ingredients in the bottom of it, where it talks about the enriched wheat flour. So all those different preservatives, these ramen noodles, of course, they'll last, I think, until for the next 150 years, which is why they make it that way. So this would not qualify or pass. So believe it or not, this might have been in my freezer, right? Again, just for fun, I wanted to share with you guys. This is, we're going to go with, I'm not going to eat the entire thing. I'm just going to have part of it. So there's 3 servings per container, which would be 350 milligrams. When you look at the sodium and the ratios, not too bad, 95 milligrams of sodium. When you look at the fat, it's 18 times 9 is 162 is your number, and you divide by that by 350. It comes to about 50% fat, right? Which we're all well aware that there's a lot of fat in ice cream. And then I did take a pretty poor image all the way on the right-hand side. It's got cream, liquid sugar, sugar water, skim milk, water, sugar, cocoa, etc. But again, what could you do to stand back and look at maybe the plant-based ice creams and see what here do I like the way it tastes, because of course it has to taste good and it's more healthy for me. Here's another one, again, throwing myself under the bus. We have fed these kids at all the cross-country dinners and all the swim meet dinners and all the track dinners, these garlic knots. We literally will buy 10 bags of garlic knots and cook them and feed them to the kiddos. So just one knot, by the way, is 120 calories. And in that, it's 3.5 grams of fat. But if you look at which it gives you a good percentage of the fat, and that's just the fat itself. But you also can look at the sodium, 200 milligrams of sodium. And these kids are eating 4, 5, 6 garlic knots at a time. I also want to bring to your attention all the way to the right, looking at the ingredients. Remember, less is better, and the stuff at the top is more concentrated. So it gives a breakdown of 2 different things here: the actual knot and then the spread, right? So in the knot, it's enriched wheat flour, ascorbic acid added with a dough. In the actual spread, it's margarine, palm oil, soybean, just, I think we're well aware that this probably isn't a vegetable we're looking at. So I'm just about done. I appreciate everybody's patience. I want to just give to you again, the guidelines on this presentation are, as you're looking at the different products, you're comparing what's the percentage of fat. Hopefully you're going to find something that you got that's 20% less in fat and calories. Your sodium ratio is a 1-to-1, and your calories from sugar is 5% or less. And again, the last thing is you want to check the ingredients. I'm just about at the last slide, and I just want to say that again, as you're looking at energy bars, as you're looking at peanut butter, as you're looking at jelly, what can you do to take that time based on the information that I shared with you tonight to identify, you know what, there's not going to be the perfect product here for me, but boy, this one has got 1/5 the amount of sodium that this other one has. I still like the way this one tastes, and the price is pretty reasonable, and therefore I'm going to go ahead and give that a shot as well. So this isn't about finding the perfect product. This is about finding the best or the better product for you as you're pursuing your long-term health goals. So I would love to open it up and see if we have any questions. Let's see here. Let me stop share. Yeah, why don't we just What questions do you, if I can answer them, I will, but if I can't, I'll get back to you with the answer. But I'd like to open it up and just ask,
Mike?
there was a ton of information and share with you. What do you got for me?
Mike,
Yes. Hello?
what about, you didn't talk about fiber. And I
Mhm.
know that, am I heard?
You're cutting out, Bev. So I'm gonna just try to assume what you said. So actually, I had fiber as part of this presentation, but I intentionally removed it because there's so much information here that I felt like I probably overwhelmed folks on this call anyway, as it was. Now, I will say that that is definitely, he doesn't talk about that on the DVD as well. He does talk about fiber, but not in this specific DVD that I was referencing. But I will say that fiber is incredibly important. And when you're looking at fiber, like some of them I mentioned, the fiber in the pasta, whole wheat pasta was double the amount of fiber that it was in the other pasta, the Borelli penne pasta. He does talk about different ratios and things you want to shoot for. What I'd like to do is take some time and put something together to present to you guys in a future presentation. And you can really look at that at cereals. You can look at that at breads. You can look at that as pizza dough. I mean, there's a lot of things out there that you can identify. Yeah, this has got the appropriate ratio of fiber for me as well.
Okay.
Cool. What else you got?
One more thing I'd like to say though, just when you were looking at some of the ingredients, the high fructose corn syrup I noticed was the #1 ingredient on one of your foods.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That's exactly right, Bev. Thanks for pointing that out.
You're welcome. I love it too. I use the same stuff.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I think it might have been the honey bunches of
Sweet Baby Ray's.
What was it?
No, Sweet Baby Ray's.
Oh yeah.
Sweet Baby
Oh, yeah.
Ray's.
Okay. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I use that in a lot of ingredients and stuff. But yeah, it's got a lot of sugar and it's the #1 ingredient in there. Cool. What else?
Going back to the cereals, some of those products I use too, obviously from talking to you and some ideas.
Mhm.
And I think people, or the suggestions people think, oh, you're going to lose some of that taste or that sweetness or whatever. And like the shredded wheats, for example, throw in the sliced bananas or some fruits and you get that, and you get the fullness and the sweetness, and it's all healthy, and you're not, so a lot of those substitutes can be tweaked by adding what the healthier fruits and vegetables and what have you, and it makes for a healthy, satisfying breakfast, lunch, or dinner, whatever you choose. So
Yeah.
That's all I kept thinking about throughout everything you were showing.
Yeah.
The first thing you're thinking of is, well, I don't want to just eat that, but
Right.
however you add this to it, then you have what you like. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's good.
Yeah, I'm glad you called that out because I don't have shredded wheat by itself. I don't have oats by themselves. I have that with a ton of, and many of you have seen my images, bananas and raisins and strawberries and blueberries. It's typically, and I'll have cinnamon in there. I'll also probably grind up some flaxseed as well. And it tastes absolutely delicious. So I'm really glad you brought that up because it's part of the whole meal itself. Okay, any other comments, questions, or concerns? We're right at the top of the hour. Go.
One thing I was thinking about where you had beans and things where there was a lot of sodium or more sodium, you can just rinse them a lot of times, right?
You can, but I don't know how much of that
And get the
is coming off. So I would just buy the no salt. And if you feel like it needs salt, then you
Okay.
can maybe just right before you eat it, sprinkle a little bit on, which is going to be significantly less sodium.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. So we're going to close it out. Hopefully this was helpful for you guys. I know there was a lot of information on here and I really had to, what makes the most sense. And like I said, I actually had slides on fiber and I'm like, this is just so much information as it is anyway. I don't want to overwhelm them anymore. And that wasn't even part of the DVD, but that is really important as well. So that'll be on a future one. And then down the road, I'd love to hear some feedback from you guys to say what I can do differently to make this more impactful. But by design, I knew it had 70 slides. I knew there was a lot we were going through, but I really want to share this with you and really try to tie and connect some of the diseases that are out there to the food itself specifically, and how things have unfortunately changed in society as relates to disease over the course of the last 50, 100 years or what have you. So, all right, we're going to close it out. Thank you guys so
Say
much.
one thing about
Appreciate it.
diabetes.
What's that?
I was just wondering if I could say one thing. You were talking about the sugar in the foods for diabetics,
Mhm.
but you know what is worse, I think, for myself is the sugar, but the flour that's in the food
flour.
with
Oh,
the
yeah, good
sugar
point.
and the fat.
Yeah.
Because I can eat jelly beans and it doesn't affect my blood sugar, but I mean, it does, but not badly. But I
Sure.
can, then if I eat a muffin, it's horrible.
Gotcha.
Wow.
Interesting. Cool. All right. Thanks for sharing. We're going to close it out. Okay. Y'all have a great
Yeah,
evening.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
thanks a lot,
you.
Mike. That was very
Yeah.
informative.
All right.
Thank you.
Take care, guys.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Y'all.
Bye.